Good day and welcome to Rocket with Chief. Conversations to take you places. And today we literally are. I'm your host, Daniel Robus, and we've got Adam Nunn on the line from, where are you, Adam?
So it's the city is called Harting. I'm found the nearest coffee shop. It's quite hard to find coffee shops at times where there's some Wi-Fi. It's about 350 kilometers south of Hanoi, and
Wow.
I arrived here by bicycle.
That is amazing. Now, last time we met, we were in the coffee shop in the campus, and you were doing some work and talking about going overseas. Adam, where are you? What are you doing? And why are you on this podcast?
So I worked for Dimension Data, NTT. To be fair, I didn't know which brand I was representing at times. I was part of the group in the MIA business. And when I was there in 2019, I was busy working on the SuperSport mobile app as the lead product owner. I don't know how old I was. I was 26, 27, 25 or whatever. And I kind of had a bit of a quarter life crisis. I really enjoyed the industry. I don't think I would have deviated or gone anywhere else in terms of finances, like choosing finance or events or whatever. But I just found myself putting up more sticky notes on white walls than enjoying my job at a stage. It was in the sports division, which I love. So everyone was saying you should be enjoying this, but I just certainly wasn't. And I made a radical decision without getting another job just to resign. Suffering heavily from mental health because of it. And it wasn't the sole reason of my mental health issues, but I just said, let me take a break. I'm in a privileged enough position to be able to do that. And I understand completely that the rest of the world can't pack it up and, go 2 months with no rent money. But I had the opportunity. I took time out and I rediscovered myself completely, which was amazing.
Wow. That is such a brave thing. And that's so anti-establishment. How do you get the grounding and just the self-confidence to back yourself? Where did that come from, Adam? What's your background?
So, I've been quite the confident person. And, I must say the first place to get that confidence, even though I'm a confident human, was to speak out. And I reached out not even to my own parents first. I just went straight to a therapist. And I was like, I feel lost. I was sitting literally on the floor in the shower every morning before work. I was going to bed as early as I possibly could just so I could get over the day. And I knew that was a problem. And the first person that came to mind in my experience was Robin Williams. I was the happy-go-lucky guy at work. I was loving life. I made everyone laugh, and everything was in my success going forward. Like, I had a great job, great family, awesome friends. I just didn't really feel like I had control of my own life. And that confidence, I always had it, and I had confidence to speak to friends, family, and be on stage. But I suffered with getting that first, saying the word sad. And it, that classic millennial. I actually just Googled therapist or
wow.
Actually, I Googled depression, and then it popped up therapist. A lady, Annette Steele in Pretoria. She was the first person that heard my problems. And she guided me. She helped me. Literally after that first session, told my parents. They were shocked. Yeah. Told my best friends. And then you start telling everyone. And it's amazing how much everyone cares. You're so loved as a human being. And I think that's my message going forward. Right? As soon as I see anyone with an inkling of sadness or doubt or unsurety of what they're saying, I'm like, hey, are you sad? And rather let them say yes and then, chat through it then and there than bottle it in and,
And Adam, this fake macho male, that isn't a South African thing to admit that we're struggling. How did you just sidestep that, and what is the secret that you could pass on? You've just given it. Amazing how everyone cares. We got to remember about that. But what would you say to other people who are being pressured into being in this fast performing environment, and what's your advice?
So yeah, I think I personally never thought I had that motto to it. I didn't think I was holding it in because I was a man. At the time, I think I was holding it in because I had everything going for me. So mine was more like privileged guilt. You know, I went to a great school. I had my whole university paid for by my parents. Parents loved me. The job I had was like next level. I had a great boss, great mentor in Scott Gibson and Lauren Wortman. And there's nothing that should point to being sad. So my guilt was that. But in terms of the bravado, like I have a lot of mates that try and be brave and try and pretend that nothing's wrong, and we're going to get this next raise and buy a house and go to these fancy places for holiday and stuff. So yeah, my overcoming was just accepting that a human's like upbringing, whether you're from the poorest of poor to the richest of rich, the human brain and the makeup and that whole, without sounding like a hippie, but like that whole energy, and that is the same universally.
Yeah.
I'm just through through Namibia, Japan, now Vietnam. Everyone, you go through schools and the kids during break play exactly how the kids play in break in South Africa and in America. And I'm just listing countries I've been to and I've seen it. I'm like, we're all the same human being. So that whole mental energy and whatever is uniquely the same. And how you've been brought up, doesn't really affect that, I think.
Yeah. That's awesome, Adam. You can't believe the right time it is for us to be having this chat, and I think that's it's just the universe conspires to help us get in together to build these bridges. When you decided now you're going to leave where you were doing extremely well in a corporate environment, what was your next step? Did you have a plan, or did you just say, listen, I'm out, I'm done? Then what? And how did you end up now where you are just outside Hanoi?
So, what I did is, and this is a bit of a workshop in a way, but I kind of wanted to work out how many hours were for me. And so I actually, on one of those whiteboards in one of those conference rooms, it was at Multiple Choice City, at the client that I was working at, I drew 24 blocks and representing 24 hours. I divvied them up.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, 8 of them are for sleep, because I believe in sleep and rest. Some people only need 6 hours, some need 5 hours. I gave myself 8 because that's just what I wanted. And then I was like, personally, I don't believe in just the free meal type of thing. So I believe you need to pay school fees and work and try and earn an income and so on. So I committed to give myself 8 or 9 hours for work. It doesn't matter what job yet. That was just like, those are my 2. Those are 16 hours of a day that would exist. And then I had, the leftover 8 hours, and I started working out where were those going? Because I'm obviously sad and I need those 8 to uplift me. And it was 1 hour was traveling to work. So I'm like, oh, well, that one gets thrown away. 1 hour was traveling back from work, another one thrown away. 1 hour was prepping food for work, thrown away. And I got to a point where I was only actually giving myself 2 to 3 hours of me time a day that wasn't really utilized. I was so exhausted. I usually just lay on a bed or I didn't get to read my book because I was tired. Was watching trash TV on Netflix or whatever, or like just wasting. I wasn't riding my bike or doing things that I really enjoyed. And that's when I was like, maybe I can't control these hours and how they work, but maybe if I take those 8 hours of work and I make half of those at least fun, I can still change these 3 hours to 8 hours. So very complex way of describing it, but I realized that my workplace wasn't going to do it for me. I said, what do I enjoy? I enjoy being creative. I enjoy, coming up with cool strategies, and I actually enjoy being an owner of something. And I didn't foresee my next 2 years at Dimension Data doing that. So yeah, I just resigned, and my next goal was resign and take time off and search for something online that fits those categories, like gets my creativity out, gets me into a bit of a leadership position. Not that I wasn't, but like a true leadership position. And sorry, I'm just in a kid's playground basically. And
I hope you're not wearing a long coat, dude. It will just look very dodgy.
They all take. I'm in a district where tourism's been shut off for the last 2 years, so they're very intrigued. But and I found it's a film company. I met the guy at the Tour de France when I worked there with Dimension Data. They were making a film about Doug Ryder's cycling team. I just always had this person on Twitter, and I just went straight up, and this is once I've been resigned. I had no job, and I just messaged him. I was like, hey man, these are my skills. I've never worked in film, love creativity, love documentary, love sport. Can I work for you? And he actually, he was actually, this was now 2 months out of work, but it was basically March, and he was like about to start. He's like, I'm expecting to fire that more than hire right now. But yeah, give me 3 months of like internship work, and we'll see what you're good at, which took a lot. My CV could have got me a prop anywhere overseas, and which I was applying for and I was keen to do. But I sucked it up, and I was like, no, I'll do 3 months, no pay, or like it was like I call it rent pay or internship pay. And I think I did all right, and he offered me a full-time position, and I got to move down to Cape Town. And the office was on the Sea Point Prom. Every morning I cycled at least to Chapman's Peak and back. Every afternoon I'd walk or go surf, swim in the sea. This was the interesting thing. This is when I realized I've hit the money, because even when work finished, call it 5 p.m., I'd go after that, go and do my activities, have dinner and whatever, and I'd be so happy and comfortable to flick up my laptop and carry on working, because I realized, wow, I'm actually enjoying this. Like, I can't wait to strategize or come up with an approach on this commercial, or work out what this production schedule will look like. And then I was like, wow, I've literally substituted work time for me time in a positive way. So yeah, that was my journey. And through all of this, through working as a film company, I met this guy, Ron Rutland, and we were making a documentary about his journey. He cycled from Twickenham to Tokyo for the Rugby World Cup in 2019, raising money for a charity called ChildFund Rugby. And I just got to meet him through working in Cape Town. And just by the by, I was like, Ron, if you ever need a +1 for one of your adventures, because he's been doing this for the last 10 years, call me up. And true to his word, about 18 months later, he called me and he's like, Adam, I need someone who's debt-free, dog-free, partner-free, loves rugby, and can cycle 100 kilometers a day for 600 days. And I said, well, I can do that. And it's the one thing that I'm like a little bit upset about is I just found my mojo in Cape Town, and I was really enjoying my career or job, but jeepers, this came up and this was 10 times better. So I was like, I had to resign again, unfortunately. And I didn't leave my previous business with a sour note, but that's where I am. So we are now cycling from the last World Cup, which was in Japan.
Yeah.
We left Tokyo on the 14th of March, and we are cycling to Auckland, New Zealand, where the next World Cup is. It's the Women's World Cup. It was supposed to take place last year, but it got pushed over this year. And yeah, we're cycling. We took a flight from the South Island of Japan, Nagasaki, to Hanoi. And from Hanoi, we're cycling down to Ho Chi Minh and then into Cambodia, then through Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, East Timor, and then we'll try and take a ferry into Darwin, which is south of Australia. And then we'll cycle from Darwin through the outback to Sydney. And potentially, it's not 100% confirmed yet, but somewhere in between that, we're going to try and hit Fiji, Samoa, Tonga. World Rugby are supporting us on this journey, and they really want us to touch as many rugby nations as possible. So they're not a direct cycling route. They're all flights, and they're 100 and a circumnavigation of each island. But it's one of those like, well, why not? You'd be so close. Let's go and circumnavigate Fiji.
Take a surfboard. Take a surfboard if we go to Fiji. Oh my word, Adam.
Yeah, and then we'll head to the South Island of New Zealand and cycle up. And we are supported by DHL, who's an official sponsor of Rugby World Cup 2021, playing in 2022. And we're delivering the official whistle for the opening game of the World Cup. So we'll cycle onto the field on the 8th of October and give this gold whistle. It says South Africa versus France, which will be the opening game that morning. And hand it to the ref, and it kicks off the World Cup. So it's like, we're almost like the torch, the Olympic torch bearers, but for rugby. I've
got goosebumps. I have got goosebumps about your journey. Where do people track and follow you guys, Adam? Where do we see what's going on?
So based off my IT experience, we made sure ticked all the right boxes. So we got a website, racetorugbyworldcup.com. On there's our all the little buttons for social media, whatever social media you have. We have a podcast called the Race to Rugby World Cup Pod. We have live tracking, something I picked up at the Tour de France. So every day you can literally follow us live. I think it buffers every 2.5 minutes. And then, the main goal of the whole journey is to raise money for ChildFund Rugby. And I'll just jump in here because I just got goosebumps. We were with them now in Vietnam a few days ago out of Hanoi. So this is like the easiest way to understand how great they are. But basically, in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, a lot of the women are doomed to the rice fields and to the kitchens and as housewives and so on. And they've lacked basic confidence for many years, just to be businesswomen, to be entrepreneurs, to be sporty, whatever. And this charity organization called ChildFund Alliance, or ChildFund, they wanted to create a sports for development program that, helps build confidence in these regions. And they entered Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And I think at first they came with soccer balls, and the boys said, no, soccer's for men. They tried cricket balls and cricket bats, that's for men. Baseball, football, anything, all these sports. And all these boys, it started all right, and then they took over. It's a boys' sport. But then they brought a rugby ball. And no one in Southeast Asia has seen a rugby ball in these communities. And the boys basically just said, well, that's a girls' sport. You guys can play. And the one statistic, the only country in the world that has more female rugby players than male rugby players is Laos, all because of this program. We spoke to one of the leaders of the program on Monday, and she was saying that they have now 4,500 children on their program that play rugby. And, they don't just play rugby. You don't go play rugby. The coaches teach them life skills and confidence and teamwork. You need the bigger person in the front row and the smaller person at scrum off. And that's fine. Everyone's got their place in the world. And, they've got all these amazing life lessons mixed up with their normal training. But out of those 4,500 school kids that play rugby now in Vietnam, they said about 65% of them are all ladies. And so, yeah, we're raising money for this charity. And it's a ripple. Basically, your first in is to join the club. So come to a practice, play tag rugby, meet a coach, meet a mentor, and then you play for 3 years as a child or teen. You know, some of the kids come from 12 all the way to like 16. You play for 3 years, and then you can get upgraded to a coach. And then you get given a team and you coach them. And then, you get like management role next, and it all ripples up. Some people leave as they go to university or like find other careers, but the coaches that have stayed like from a kid right to, it's just phenomenal. And these girls have so much confidence. At the one girl we spoke to, she was 21. At 21, I realized I was a dirtbag, because this girl can stand up in front of anyone, speak English, broken English, and just like present herself and just say how proud she is that she's not like working in the kitchen like her mom and her great gran and her great gran and so on. So that's the charity we're raising money for. So it makes every pedal stroke worth it. And like that's like the whole triangle. They're the official charity of the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand. DHL is an official partner. I mean, we are physically going through these communities, so it all tied in, and that's how we've got our support to do this trip. And
that's ChildFund Alliance, eh?
Well, that's the group. The actual program that we raise the money for is ChildFund Rugby. So they have programs.
Rugby.
Yeah, they have different programs that support different initiatives. I think they even might be jumping onto what's happening in Europe now. It's all about helping these children and using like smart ways to just overcome it. Sometimes it's great, dropping off a bag of food and pens and pencils, but they're actually upskilling through sport, and it's amazing. I was in tears on Monday just to meet this 21-year-old who if she was the CEO of a business, I would sign up and we'll start working. Like, it was phenomenal.
Wow. So Adam, I mean, you've got this plan for October. What's the dream? Where does Adam Nunn go to from here? And
so the scary part, Dan, is because this World Cup was delayed, the Men's World Cup is in France next year, 2023.
I foresee some pedaling in the future.
So we've basically jumped on to carry on. So from Auckland, we'll spend a month there during the World Cup, and essentially we'll fly to Santiago, Chile, and cycle through South, Central, and North America towards New York City, and then fly over to Iceland, and then to the UK, and make our way into Paris to deliver the whistle for the Men's World Cup, which is next year, the 8th of September. So until then, I'm pedaling and I'm raising money and awareness for ChildFund Rugby. And, mental health is a massive one. My closer community, just explaining to them that you can do something crazy. If there's a will, there's a way. Like, no way a year ago did I think I would be where I am now. And, everyone's like, yeah, it's easy, Adam. You got funding from X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah, but a year ago, I didn't know it existed. I just you put your head forward, your hand up. But I don't know. There's a lot to learn in the next few days of cycling. I personally have a dream. I'm inspired by my own family, like to have a family. So cycling around the world isn't often the most productive way of keeping a marriage, but I believe in doing something like that. Career-wise, I'm going to always be true to what I enjoy. So keeping it creative, keeping it decision maker orientated, and high energy. Won't chase money. That's the number one thing that I think stressed me out, and what I think stresses a lot of males out these days for some silly reason. They think they have to be the breadwinners. But yeah, that's unfortunately I don't have a long-term answer, because in the next
I love that,
5
and I don't want one. I just want to honor you again for going back to the mental health. I have a 15-year-old who battled depression on her own, and only when we explained to her that this is like breaking a leg, you can't fix it on your own, you need to get help. And she's written a book about it, and so it's really in our family and part of our family, and having lots and lots of experience from many angles in my life. I'm so glad that it's getting a voice and it's getting a place at the table now, because I've seen people fall apart from it when they shouldn't have to. And, Jess actually said it to me, my daughter said it to me, Dad, it's like having a broken leg that you can't fix and no one can see. And, the more we bring it out, the more I think we can have healthy, productive society. And especially you come from a South African background, our first thing is survival and work and earning the bucks. That Maslow's hierarchy is quite well defined because no one looks after us here. Whereas what you are saying is this is an essential building block for a healthy, productive life. And I can't wait to hear more about what you have to say about it. I'm watching Jess talk to teenagers and talk to parents on how to make a taboo subject front of mind. And now I'm hearing a young executive who's talking around how to bring it into the mainstream. I just got off an HR call and saying, does it have a place at the table? And I seem to think people are paying less lip service to it and more honoring the fact that it's a real issue which needs to be dealt with. So, that's something that I'm so proud that I knew you before, and knowing you now, I'm really glad that you're carrying the banner. I want to ask you a question that you keeping in touch with donors, you're asking people to raise money, communication's a big bit. What is your technology go-to enable people to keep in touch? Give me your 3 hacks that you have to have.
So yeah, it's amazing how these smart devices basically globalize the world. It's and it's very important to keep in touch with everyone. I always use it with Ron. I'm like, Ron's my writing partner, but I'm like, Ron, everyone's like goldfish. They have a 3-second memory. So sending out an email, they forget it in 3 seconds, and sending out like getting a spot in a newspaper, pointless. So the go-tos are go onto social media, which I don't believe in because it's a big cause of mental health issues, and we've just spoken. But if you want to really get your message out there and consistent, understand a platform. It's really hard to understand all the platforms. So we've kind of Twitter, we've got Twitter and Instagram. We get it. We know how it works. And we are going to remain organic. So we're going to try and avoid the whole boosting process. And that's just to really, after this journey, if someone was following us organically and kept following us every single day from start to finish, I think they might go through a similar journey to us. So yeah, we sticking to Instagram, Twitter, and then where we get our funding from, we're using Give and Gain. It's just better to take the stresses of, is my money actually going anywhere? And then, our website. We do have a podcast, which is actually sounds crazy and scary, but once you set it up, podcasting can be quite simple. Depending on how you want to edit and mix and so on. But once we record, and we have recording devices with us on the road, we upload it, put it onto the streaming platform we have, and it distributes it to 8 or 9 different channels quite simply. So yeah, I would say that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but I'd say try and research one or two platforms and become somewhat of a pro at it. Understand what you want to push out. And right now ours is a story of adventure with like every fifth or sixth post pushing charity. So, build the people up, they're loving what we're doing, and suddenly like, if you really are enjoying it, get on board with us. The way you can do that is donate 150 Rand, $10 to charity. Like that's the minimum amount to donate. We're basically selling off every kilometer we cycle for $10, and it all goes to charity. But I've previously, like with my previous job at Dimension Data, there was stresses where we were trying to do everything. I'm like, why don't we just concentrate on two of these tech pieces or technology pieces and master them? And I think since leaving, I think they've gone that way. But a lot of companies fail. Like their Instagram page has like 5,000 followers, and then their Twitter's got 20,000, and then they try and maintain both, and then one just basically collapses and then forces the other one to collapse. I don't know.
There's wisdom there. There's wisdom there. What I said, research one or two platforms and then master one of them. So you're spending quite a lot of time in the saddle. You've enjoyed that. It's been good. What's your pet peeve when you're sitting on the bike? What just gets under your skin and you get a bit grumpy about?
Yeah, so I before I started this trip, someone's like, what's your biggest challenge? And everyone always thinks, it's time in the saddle and it's cycling and it's the heat, whatever. Funny enough, discovering a lot about myself, but after 120 kilometers, and to put it in perspective, like people listening, like whatever race you've done that was hard, whether it's a 5K, park run, a Comrades, an Argus, right at the end when they give you that like complimentary drink and your medal or whatever, usually quite tired. You want to sit down and just relax. Yeah. And the one challenge, without trying to always be grumpy about it, is like, as we finish today, we did 128 kilometers, for example. And as we try and check into where we're staying, it's really cheap here in Vietnam. So we've been able to avoid the camping, which is fun, not fun. But yeah, just the receptionist not being able to communicate with you. So it's nothing of her fault. Yeah. But they got literally mud on my face. We walking into with bicycles. There's that. Hopefully, they've got this common sense. Like, okay, these two people are exhausted. Let's check them into a room and we'll sort out the. But it's not really like that, and it gets under my skin because you
don't say no.
You can't communicate. Yeah. 5 photocopies of your passport, your vaccine certificate. You can't stand here. You can only stand there. You have to pay in cash, and the closest ATM is 5 kilometers down the road. All that sort of stuff. Yeah. And it's sure, maybe on their website, those are the rules. And because we couldn't read the website, we didn't preempt it. And it's no one's fault. It's just the one thing that I thought would never bug me, because I'm usually a happy-go-lucky, oh, well, we'll have to just wait. But after a long day on the saddle, you get a little bit impatient. But I'm not laughing at
them. I'm laughing at you, Adam. I'm laughing at you. No, it's I think that there's a lot of time that you must have, and I imagine that you're keeping kind of busy, and it's time to get internal and introspective, but external and extrospective as well, and getting a good world view. You reading anything at the moment? What do you do when you've got downtime?
So our downtime's interesting. It's so tricky because, right now we're in it's not really a tourist city. I got a book that I haven't yet. It's the Darkest Shadow Cast Over the Mind. It's like a travel book about the dark times of adventure. Yeah. But you sit there on your bed or in your tent and you just listen to hustle and bustle, and you can't help but want to stand up and just walk around. So I'm finding it really hard to just, which is important to do. I'm not on a 600-day Contiki tour because you'll basically perish. So I find downtime, read a book, literally watch something on my phone, like a Netflix, download it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the moment, downtime is going for a little bit of a walk, finding a cool coffee shop. But on my bike, the downtime, because, Ron and I don't speak to each other for 7 hours while cycling. I've found quite fun is investigating different historical podcasts. So,
Wow.
and I've downloaded about 5 or 6 from different, podcasters, and like one is the French invasion of Vietnam, and then one's the Vietnam War, and it's
so
amazing.
Give us three podcasts you recommend, Adam.
On these, well, to be honest,
or anything, just 3 that you would recommend we dive into. If
you want to understand what we went through last year preparing for this, the NIMS Jura, it's a Joe Rogan podcast, but it's the guy who climbed the 14 peaks.
Yes.
The podcast, he speaks about the preparation that goes into doing something crazy like what we're doing, and how no one actually buys in until you're done, in terms of funding, support, and whatever. Like, it's really, really hard to get your full budget up front, and and I can completely understand it. But great podcast. Joe Rogan's always great.
Okay, so what's it called?
Well, it's Joe Rogan Experience, but it's NIMS is the guy's name, NIMS.
Yeah.
Jura, I think it's DJ.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What an amazing movie! I love that. Thanks, Adam. That's really good.
Yeah, and I listened to it yesterday. It was like really cool. And in my just right now, which I don't want to, but I just can't help it, is I listen to like those daily, like, economists and stuff like that. It's good. It's good to talking about mental health. Like, you don't want to arrive in a city all happy-go-lucky and you realize that some catastrophe has happened somewhere in the world and everyone's scared or whatever. So I personally only really keep up to date with the world news to make sure that, like, I'm not completely insensitive to something that might have happened literally that day. We in Japan, we were cycling and there was an actual earthquake like 200 kilometers north of where we were. And so I actually got a call from my mom. It's like, Adam, did you get hit by the earthquake? And I'm like, what? And we were going in and out of coffee shops and having fun. Meanwhile, people's families, houses and that were breaking down and falling apart. So yeah, that's just something that I keep up to date with. And then our own, the Race to Rugby World Cup pod.
No, but you said that one already. We got that one. We got that. People, race to rugbyworldcup.com. Great podcast. Adam won't talk all of it. He's there for eye candy. Then, Adam, as we wind down and you need to go and do your stuff, if you have advice for a 20-something in your space, you started this off by saying an amazing tool, your 24 blocks, and I really like that tool. What advice would you give to someone in their 20-something starting their career that's been decided for them or whatever? Give me just a
So this is going to sound so cheesy, but I think you got to realize when you're in your 20s, right? And I'm saying 20, like, I don't know how it feels to be 38, but you are actually very young. 21 to 29, you are very, very young. I thought it was not that way. At 25, I was like, oh my God, by 30, I need to have this much in the bank and I should probably be owning a home. And you put this panic on yourself. When I say I'm young, I only realize it when once you resign, you're like, I am young, and then you start chatting to other people and what they did. And they're like, oh yeah, when I was in my late 20s, we tried to start some water company and it failed. And now I'm 38 and I'm like this lead manager of this massive company. And I'm like, oh, in a 10-year turnaround, you went from literally dirt broke, risk taking at 28 to a successful businessman. You know, you have time to turn around. I don't know where it started or if it's South African culture, but in your 20s, you're seriously young and you have so much time to like make up whatever pressures you have in your life. You know, like if I still believe that I need to match one of my fellow mates from school, I've got my whole 30 to 40 years of life to do that if I need to, if I want to. But like, I'm 28 right now, and there's like what I have 2 bags with a couple clothes in it, a tent, a pot, a couple water bottles, nice book to read, and I got the cell phone and 2 passports. Like that's all I have in my life, and there's no stress, absolutely zero stress. If I think of one of my old friends that are in their late 20s, they have to pay, they've like gone and done the whole mortgage thing and bought an Audi A3 and they've tried to be old too soon, and they're stressed every night of their life because they're like, if I don't get this com check next month, you know, I'm a bit behind on my repayment loans or whatever. And you know what, I don't know, I think it's a bit young to take that stress on. And so yeah, just honestly, in your 20s, you're so young, so young. There's no way to say it. Your grand will tell it to you, your dad will tell it to you, everyone will say, you're so young, Adam. In your 20s, you never believe it. But when I don't know what I've done, but I've realized like, holy crap, I am actually extremely young. So let me call it, lack of better words, party it up a little bit.
That is so wise. I remember actually speaking to a graduate group through a company we've mentioned a couple of times, encouraging them to go and do what you're doing now because they're so young. And no one listened. Well, you did, but that I had nothing to do with you, Adam. I wish I could claim it, but I had nothing to do with it. When you go to Santiago, remember I speak Spanish. So if you need me, I'm there. I'm not young, but I can still be there.
Oh, I'd love that.
Adam, as we are coming to the end of this session, what's the one question that you would have loved to have asked you, and how would you have answered it?
Question. Actually wasn't preempting any questions. I don't know. I think what I would like to just add to your daughter's epiphany on mental health and the broken leg analogy is, so my real gran never met her, but she killed herself when my dad was about 3 from mental health issues and so on. And when I mentioned that to my therapist, you know, she sat up and she explained to me that mental health is hereditary. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. She's like, you got to understand, there's chemicals in people's brains. There's some chemicals that make you do maths better than others. There's some chemicals that make you run faster than others. There's some chemicals that heighten certain senses more than others. And depression, and it's a very negative word when you say it, but mental health and depression and sadness and anxiety is just a chemical imbalance. And that's why it's hereditary. It's passed over in genes. You know, it's just that's just how life works. And taking pills, for instance, to overcome those first phases of it is okay. Like when you have a mad infection on your knee, you put cream on that you buy from a pharmacy or whatever. When you have a serious chronic illness and you need to take antibiotics or some medication, whatever, you take medication. I don't often take pills, but at the beginning phase I took some, and it just helped balance out a little bit of my chemical imbalances. And like you said, it's like a broken leg. You need a little bit of help sometimes. And there's help in humans, which is the number one help I can suggest to anyone. But there's also, if it's really struggling in your brain to overcome and can't think about it, it's when it's nighttime and you don't have someone next to you, there are healthy practices and medication that you can take, which I did. And I was at first too proud to say, like, I ain't going to take antidepressants. That's for weak people. But I did. And I didn't go on the hardcore anything. I started slow and I weaned off eventually, and eventually I had control of my own life. And I now know what heightens my anxiety and what doesn't. So it's like I avoid those things. And yeah, I had a little bit of help with some polls and a therapist and family and friends. And yeah, I couldn't have fixed my broken leg without it.
Sure. Adam, there is so much there, and I just want to honor you for that. You go on this journey and you meet all these new people. I'm sure they're going to leave you changed forever, but I'm confident that you're going to leave them changed. And I'm confident that you are just creating a blessing in people's lives wherever you go. And I am proud to have known you before and after. And I just want to wish you all the best for your journey. I want to wish you for the learning that you're going to go through and the leader that you're going to become, and wish you every success. I hope to keep in contact, and I hope your life just goes where it's meant to go, because it's destined for great things. So from our side, just thank you for giving us a little bit of time. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I'm going to be following you and enjoying the journey.
Oh, thank you, Dan. And anytime, you're also a great mentor back in my working day. Great human. It's talking about, those 8 hours, walking into an office where someone greets you with a smile and a bit of a heightened voice, changes your day tremendously. So yeah, it's anytime for you, and really appreciate it. And also along the journey, give it 2-3 more months, I'll have more stories, and I'm happy to jump onto the pod again. So yeah.
Love it. I'm going to hold you to that. From us, I'm Daniel, your host. I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, as Adam says, life rocks if you let it. Goodbye.
Ciao.